Okay, that's good. For some reason, I thought we had. I guess we just had that discussion. Let me get to the agenda. And we will go from there. What a day here today. I totally lost track of everything.
That's good.
It was hard physical labor has its advantages and disadvantages. Yeah. All right, let's have a roll call vote.
Director Penrose.
Here.
Director Clark.
Here.
Director Lohman.
Here.
Director Raddock.
Here.
Director Dye.
Here.
Chair Slater Carter.
Present, sort of, kind of. Okay, what's the next item on the agenda? I can't even find it right now.
That's the election of SAM board officers. Special order of the day.
Good. Good. Let's start
Catherine, before we launch into that.
Yes. Public
I just want to say a few things real quick. Well, I think we're lucky at SAM to have a great SAM staff that works wonderful things for us. And we also have a good board. And in the past, we've had lots of good people and chairs run these meetings year after year after year. And I just wanted to thank you for your year. I think you did a great job steering us through all of our usual problems and keeping everybody going through all the meetings. So I just wanted to thank you for your work last year before Barbara Dye takes over. So.
Well, it's a team effort, and I am only as good as the people I work with. And you are absolutely right, Rick. It is our staff who are phenomenal. Susie Q and the black thing there, and Christopher and everyone else. And it is also the willingness of the board to look at each other's point of view and then discuss what they see is best for SAM. And I'm very, very honored to have been selected by MWSD to serve on SAM again. I look forward to a solution to the lawsuit and some real team building that will go forward with the interests of the primary environmental agency on the coast side. Without sewers, we would not have a livable, habitable place, and it's very important. So, and that's our fabulous staff that keeps it that way. And Keishan has built a great team and keeps it going. And so this next year, there's some other stuff we need to work on, and I look forward to us being able to get it done. So with that, thank you very much, Rick. Do we have any other public comment?
We have to do, we probably need to select public comments after we finish.
Oh, it is. Okay. I see. Yeah, it's called to order, special order of the day, election of SAM board officers. I skipped over that. So let's do that. Rick.
Since it's Granada's turn, I'd like to nominate Barbara Dye for chair.
And I heartily give it a second. And absent any naysayers, anybody, let's just call this a unanimous vote.
You should actually do roll call on this one.
Oh, we need to do a roll call. That's right.
If it's okay, Chair, I'm sorry.
No, I apologize. I have been pushing it. Rick knows how hard we work in the garden in the back country here.
Who is this annoying attorney who keeps us on schedule here?
My name is Christopher Boucher.
So roll call vote on the motion and the second to select Barbara Dye to take over the board.
Director Penrose,
Aye.
Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Loman,
Yes.
Director Ruddock,
Yes.
Director Slater Carter,
Absolutely.
Director Dye.
Yes.
Okay. So we
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I want to say again, myself, a thank you to Catherine for taking us through the past year. It's been a challenging year with a new general manager that we've all gotten to know and worked with well. I feel like your leadership and your work with him has been really important in keeping us moving forward. So you have done a great job, and I really appreciate that, and hope I can do somewhat as much of a good job. I also want to say that my husband, when I told him this was going to happen tonight, he said, "Well, do you have a gavel?" And I said, "There's one there, but I don't need it because we're on Zoom." And he went to the workbench and got me this rubber mallet, which I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do with it, but I got a rubber mallet here just in case.
I'd like to withdraw my nomination.
So, and now do we need to move forward and elect the other officers?
Yes.
yes.
Good.
So I would like to hear a nomination for vice chair.
That would be Half Moon Bay.
I'd like to nominate Deborah Ruddock.
I'll second that.
Hearing a motion in a second. Is there any further discussion? Can we have a roll call, please?
Director Penrose,
Yes.
Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Loman,
Yes.
Director Slater Carter,
Absolutely.
Director Ruddock. He said yes. Okay. Chair Dye.
Yes, enthusiastically. All right, thank you for that.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And for, could I have a nomination for secretary treasurer?
I would like that job. So Rick, if you would like to nominate me, I would appreciate that.
Oh, I guess so in that case. I nominate
Thank you.
Catherine Slater Carter.
Is there a second?
Oh, dear.
Second,
All right, is there any further discussion?
I'll just say that when we do our officers at GCSD, we're reminded every year that nominations don't need a second.
Oh,
Ooh.
is that true?
Probably.
All the agencies I've ever worked with typically do a second, but you may be right.
I think
at
it's,
the city, we do not do seconds.
There you go.
All right, well, could we have a roll call vote on a perhaps unnecessarily seconded motion?
Director Penrose,
Yes.
Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Loman,
Yes.
Director Ruddock,
Yes,
Director Slater Carter,
absolutely.
Chair Dye.
Yes. All right, thank you, everyone. We have a new set of people involved in this. It'll be, let's start this year with great high hopes. Moving on to public comment. Members of the public, do we have anyone who would like to comment on an item that is not on the agenda? Hearing and seeing no hands raised, let's move on to the consent agenda. Would anyone like to remove anything from the consent agenda? All right, can we have a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
second,
All right, are there any further discussion? All right, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Director Penrose,
Yes.
Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Loman,
Yes.
Director Ruddock,
yes,
Director Slater Carter,
Absolutely.
Chair Dye.
Yes. All
Motion
right,
passed.
yes. Moving on to regular business. Item 4A, establish board operations committee and finance committee as standing committees, set time and place for the meetings, and appoint directors. Should we take them one at a time? Or, well, why don't we establish them by one motion and then discuss them separately for members and places? So can we have a motion to establish 2 standing committees?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Can we have a roll call, please?
Director Penrose,
Yes.
Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Loman. Director Loman, you're muted.
Thought I was being nice there. Yes.
Director Radek,
Yes.
Director Slater Carter,
Yes.
Chair Dye.
Yes. All right, so shall we discuss Board Operations Committee first? Do we have volunteers who would like to be on the Board Operations Committee?
I
I
would,
move we adopt a current staff, the current board membership.
I agree. We've made a lot of progress. We work well together.
All right, well, I noticed that Director Lohman is not on any committee. Are you not interested in being on a committee?
I got enough stuff going on. I'm perfectly happy to, I think you other folks are doing a great job, and finance is not my big thing anyway. So
Well, this is Board Operations we're talking about.
we
but-
got eager volunteers, and I'd hate to interfere with that. I'm perfectly happy. Thanks.
Rick is doing such a good job both at LAFCO and CSDA and his other committees and boards that he's on, where he is not an official representative of SAM, but certainly represents SAM and brings us back information. I think it's very important for him to continue on with that.
That's fine. I just wanted to make
That's
sure
fine.
that was part of the discussion. Do we need a motion to appoint the members of the committee, Jeremy?
You know, that's something that different agencies do it differently. If you want, in the past, if you just, the chair often has the authority to appoint, then the board ratifies, or you could just do it with the board approving it right now if you want to be more efficient.
I think we should just do it then with the board approving it right now, right? Can we have a motion to approve a board operations committee made up of,
I already made the motion.
okay, sorry, Director Reddick. Can we have and we had a second?
I'll second.
Second.
All right, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Director Penrose,
Yes.
Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Loman,
Yes.
Director Radek,
Yes.
Director Slater Carter,
Yes.
Chair Dye.
Yes. All right, moving on to the Finance Committee.
I have a Barbara,
Yes,
I
go
have a
ahead.
comment. The setup that's in the agenda says that the board will meet every fourth Monday at 5:30. That's also the SAM meeting, and I really don't like that. I object. Most of the meetings have been short, but now that they're going to be standing committees, and I believe subject to the Brown Act, there may be public comment, et cetera. And sometimes these meetings will go long, and as a sort of normal human being, I like to eat dinner. So a meeting at 5:30 and another at 7 doesn't seem reasonable to me.
And you brought that up at our last discussion on this as well.
Yes.
And we need to set a definite time for these meetings, correct?
As a regular meeting, yes, standing committee regular meetings should have set times. Although you don't have to do it today. I mean, you could do it at the next board meeting.
Shall we do it at our next board meeting so we can work out a time that works for the 3 people who are on that committee? Is that okay with everyone?
That works.
How are you going to get the opinions of the other members?
Can we do it? Oh, we can't do it as a doodle poll because that's a Brown Act violation.
Well, not with just,
Or maybe we can just talk about when we're available and then make the decision at the next meeting.
Yep.
Well, my opinion is I'd like to do it at 6 o'clock right before the meeting. So Matthew and I have very different ideas about how we want to handle it.
Well, I agree with Matthew. I think we've got work to be done. We're not just a rubber stamp. And
I don't think having it at 6 o'clock makes it a rubber stamp.
I like to eat dinner. I'm along with Matthew, and I'm the one who cooks dinner.
Yeah, me
So am
too.
I.
Well, shall we, I mean, we can't do it among ourselves, but perhaps,
Why not put it on a different Monday?
Can each committee set its own times based on the
Yes.
3 members?
It can. You
I
just have
think-
to have, yes,
all right, well, why don't we do that then and have each committee
yeah.
determine?
Another thing, just to note, I mentioned this to Kitchen, is just right now, at least, I haven't seen that the committees have appointed chairs or appointed a president or, go a committee, president's the wrong term, committee chair. Might be helpful just in the future for when the committee reports to the full board, just something to consider that you may want to do that once the committees meet.
Yeah, I'd like to nominate Matthew as board chair.
Board Operations Committee Chair.
Yes.
Okay.
And
I'll
Matt,
second that.
what time do you want to do it?
Well, a different Monday, I would like a different Monday.
I'd like it on the same day if we can possibly. It just disrupts the day.
But we don't, as I'm understanding, we don't have to decide this tonight. And I think it might be, rather than us all sitting here talking about our schedules, our personal schedules and so forth, maybe we should,
Yeah, Kitchen can survey the members of the committee as to when their availability.
Yes.
yeah.
That makes
That's probably
sense.
the way to do it.
Yep, I can coordinate and then bring it
Right,
back
so-
next meeting.
So we have a Board Operations Committee, time and date of meeting, day of the month and time to be determined. And did we elect Matthew as chair?
You don't
Let's
need to now.
Now, let's have the committee do that at our first meeting. I would suggest
I agree with
he
that.
can poll the committee and we work on these details as a standing committee.
Did you do finance committee as well?
Yeah,
Just making
we're
sure
about
that
to do Finance Committee.
Let me,
Yeah,
can I ask a question, please?
Yes.
I've only been, I believe, to 2 of these board ops meetings. Does the chair devise the agenda?
For the committee meeting?
Yes.
The chair of the committee would work with the general manager in establishing the committee agenda. And potentially with the board chair as well. The
Okay.
idea of committees is to save time for the full board to be able to dig
Right.
in deeper. And so it's there's a lot of discretion, but that's typically the committee chair will work with the general manager to develop the agenda.
Understood. Thank you.
Matthew, before, and for the public, before we went to having active committees a couple of years ago, our meetings were just taking way too long. And so the board decided that we would use the committee format as a way of sorting through the deeper details so that the board could have confidence that it had been, that had been looked at by board members, but not necessarily have to go through it during a SAM board meeting.
Thank you for that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Should we move on to Finance Committee? I would like
There's a small typo in the finance committee. The current ad hoc committee members is actually Radak, Slater Carter, and Dye. By typo, I think we used the last year's thing and we just added Boyd in that. So it's not Scott Boyd, it's Radak, Slater Carter, and Dye, the present committee members.
and I would propose that that group continue, seem to work well together.
I would like to nominate the chair as the chair of the Finance Committee.
I would be happy to do that.
I'll second that if we need to, but why don't we deal with that during the committee meeting? Although I think we'll just do that.
Yeah. If you want to do it here, you could do it, but it would only be committee members voting.
All right, so let's wait on that, but do we need to vote on the makeup of the committee?
Ratify it.
Yeah, I mean, based on the way you decided to proceed, that'd be the next
Right,
step.
can I have a motion to propose that that be the membership of this committee?
So
So
moved.
move.
Second.
I hope someone is keeping track of all the people wanting.
Fortunately, Susan Turbay is a wonderful note taker.
So, any further discussion on that motion? All those, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Director Penrose,
Yes.
Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Lohman,
Yes.
Director Ruddock,
Yes.
Director Slater Carter,
Yes.
Chair Dye.
Yes. All right, well done, everyone, and we will also discuss our meeting time and formalize that at the next meeting and the election of chair. All right, anything else? All right, moving on to item 4B, approved side letter agreement between the Sewer Authority Mid-Coast Side and IUOE Local 39 regarding vacation accruals and administrative leave. And Kishan, can you give us a staff report?
Sure. Just to give a brief summary about it, SAM has entered into a memorandum of understanding with the International Union of Operating Engineers, which is the Local 39, for the employees who are represented. And we have agreed upon that there would be a cap on the vacation hours to about 400 hours, which means that they cannot accumulate more than 400 hours of vacation. And upon reaching this cap, the vacation leave shall not be accrued beyond the cap. That was what was agreed upon in the MOU. Now, as you all know, we've been having difficult times in 2020 due to the pandemic. And there have been times where staff has put in a lot of extra hours, and they are required to be available around the clock during this time. And it became absolutely difficult for the employees to take any vacation during that time. Plus, the travel was restricted, and the staff was dedicated, and therefore were not able to take vacation leave. And we do not want such a situation to arrive where they would have to forfeit their leave. So as a one-time requirement, staff came up with certain suggestions, and that was discussed in the Operations Committee in November. And the Operations Committee recommended that the board approve a cash out option for the employees, saying that for Local 39 employees who have accrued over 300 vacation hours on the books prior to June 2021, they may elect to cash out on a one-time basis up to 80 hours of vacation accruals, and in lieu of taking the time off. Any cash out will be at the employee's current hourly rate, and this will reduce their vacation accruals by the number of hours cashed out so that they could start accruing leave as and when it happens. In addition to the above, the supervisor of treatment and field operations also has not been able to take the special administrative leave, which has been given to him, which is 50 hours of leave, and which does not get carried on every year. And therefore, that would also, he would have to forfeit it, and therefore, the board ops committee is putting it up to the board for approval, saying that he may also elect to cash out on a one-time basis the administrative leave. And the employees who are eligible for the cash out must make such an election before June 30th, 2021. So this is the gist of the staff report. And if Chris would like to add something more to it, please, you're welcome to do that, Chris. Otherwise, questions are open.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager, and good evening, Madam Chair. Congratulations on your election as the new chair and Madam Vice Chair, and thank you, board members. Just to add really briefly to what the General Manager has shared, this is a collaborative agreement, under the directions of the board in recognizing employee contributions over the past year. And the General Manager has also worked with Local 39, and it's our understanding that Local 39 has conceptually agree to the terms that are presented before you tonight, alongside with the proposed side letter, which they have accepted, indicated that it's acceptable to them. In addition to all the reasons the general manager shared, I think just given the current status of public health, the state of ICU beds and so forth, in recognizing our employees for doing their part, serving their communities, this is a fair compromise from our standpoint, and we do recommend approval. Thank you.
And I think we all want to thank the employees for working extra time and helping us make it through successfully, well, so far in this really difficult time. Rick.
I think this is a great idea. We've done the same thing up in Montera, and I don't see any reason not to approve this.
Is that a motion?
Move per staff.
If we get a request for a motion, I could make it.
Well, you've been foreclosed. Someone else has also already made, but you could second it.
I'll second it. Okay.
There we go.
Move it along.
Is there any further discussion of the motion to approve this? Could we have a roll call, please?
Director Penrose,
Yes.
Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Lohman,
Yes.
Director Radek,
Yes.
Director Slater Carter,
Yes.
Chair Dye.
Yes. And please know that this approval does come with our appreciation for the extra hours and the time that the staff has put in to take us through this difficult period.
Thank you very much.
I think we have the same issue, just slightly different in item D, review and discuss the, C, approve a one-time cash out for certain unrepresented employees, leave balances for FY 2021.
Chris, if you would like to talk about it since it's unrepresented, please.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. General Manager. Yes, directors, this is essentially the accompanying item. We only broke that out because the last item pertained to employees represented by Local 39. And here for our unrepresented employees, currently it covers 2 employees, the finance officer and the general manager. And because they're also FLSA exempt, they do get additional management and or administrative leaves. So in this instance, we're also asking to allow for a certain cash out for leaves that they have not been able to take and otherwise would not have been able to take. And we're happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Anyone have any questions? Could we have a motion?
So moved.
Move per staff.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Could we have a roll call, please?
Director Penrose,
Yes.
Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Lohman,
Yes.
Director Radek,
Yes.
Director Slater Carter. You're muted. Director Slater Carter, you're muted.
Yes, yes.
Chair Dye.
Yes. And
Motion
again, our
approved.
appreciation for the extra time and work that has been provided to Sam by all these employees.
Thank
All
you.
right, let us move on to item D, review and discuss the year-end report from wastewater management specialists. Could we have a staff report?
Yep. In December 2019, the Board of Directors hired Wastewater Management Specialists, LLC, to assist the board and SAM management with challenges faced by the authority. The authority was going through several challenges. The general manager had resigned in March, appointed an acting general manager in June, and we were going through that phase, and therefore sought the services of wastewater management services and specialists, and they've actually completed 1 year in their contract, and we'd like to go over the report as to what has been achieved by wastewater management specialists and what all they've done for SAM. And although the recommendations indicated by wastewater management specialists are not up for discussions today, we are not seeking for approval from the board. Those will be brought about as separate items for approval by the board. This is just a consolidation of the recommendations by wastewater management specialists. And I believe Dan Child is present here from Wastewater Management Specialists, and he's going to going through a PowerPoint, and then we can have questions. So may I share the screen with you, Dan, and then you can take over.
Okay, hopefully we have better luck this time than we did last time I tried to share a screen. But thank
Yes.
you for having me here tonight, and I have enjoyed working with you guys for this past year. As you probably remember, well, you definitely remember, as Kishan just reiterated, you were in a kind of a state of turmoil a year or so ago, and we've come in and actually accomplished quite a few different things. You know, one of your goals at the time was to find somebody that would be able to talk to you and give you open and honest opinions, may agree with them or disagree with them, but you'd get the honest opinions without that person having to worry about whether they were going to be working for you the next day or not. And I remember talking to you also that there'd be a lot of touchy-feely type of work involved in this in the first part of the year, of being able to get to know people and understand what the real needs were. And I think we've done a pretty good job of that. With that, I'll try and open this PowerPoint and you guys can tell me whether it comes up or not. Can you see it?
No,
No.
Yes?
no.
No?
No.
Still no? Okay. Let's try something else. This is just wonderful. How come I can't share with you? Do I need to do something different? Oh, I know what I did. Hang on just a second. Where did you go? Okay. Now I've lost everything. I can not see. Kishan, can you share it?
Mm,
I've
yeah,
lost.
but
I've
let me
lost. I've even lost you. Maybe I can get back there.
not sure that I've got it downloaded. Let me check. Shoot. Wait a minute, please.
Now I can't even get you guys to come up.
Can you email it to me, Dan?
Can I email it to you?
That'll be quicker. Can you? Oh, wait a minute. I can go through my email otherwise.
Why do I have so much trouble with this?
Okay, I got it.
You got it?
Yeah, I've got it. It'll be a few minutes. Almost there.
Craziest thing I've ever seen. I think I just got it.
Yeah, can you see now? Dan,
I can see it, yes.
can everybody see it?
Yes.
Yes.
Is it big enough?
Can you make it full screen for,
I actually use the same board packet. That's why I believe it's smaller, not the PowerPoint.
oh, all right, well, that's fine then.
You have the same slides in your packet too.
Okay, yeah. I have it.
Okay. Yes, Dan, you want to get started?
I do, if I could see it. For some reason, I'm having trouble. There, got it. Okay. Okay, so as Kishan mentioned, we started out with some unstable management. The manager had resigned. You went through a period of time with My assisting you as we had Kishan filling in and then ultimately appointed Kishan as your permanent manager was great. You got your audits going good. I don't know where you are on your final this last year's audit, but I assume you're getting really close to getting that done. And the others were all caught up where you were 4 years behind when we started. You do have some looming retirements out there. You have several people that have been there over 30 years and could retire pretty much any time they chose to. In a lot of cases, we have either no policies or outdated policies at the time. The treatment plant needed a lot of repairs and updates. There's corrosion and odor impacts. And the collection services contract costs and the stability of that program was pretty fluctuating and weak at the time. So those are things that we really showed up and started with at first. I think things are a lot better now. They're, not everything's fixed for sure, but you got a good manager in Kishan who the people respect and enjoy working with. Kishan's still learning the ins and outs of being a manager, but I think he's doing a good job overall and getting there and has definitely improved the communications with the member agencies and the public. I know he's holding pretty much monthly meetings now with all the member agency managers, trying to keep them up to date. Sometimes things slip through, but overall, he's doing a really good job there. I think we already talked about the audits, but your financing situation is a lot better. You've got a great finance officer in George, who is really hardworking and understands the systems and is working great with the team to make sure the finances are stable and continue forward. So I think you're doing great in that area. So let's go to the next one, Kishan.
Sorry.
No problem. Since I can't control it, I'll have to ask you to help me. As I said, the retirements are a little bit scary. In November, I delivered a staffing and succession plan document combined into one program that I presented to Kishan, and I know he's in the process of reviewing that and working with the member agency managers on it. In December, I also presented a process control management plan, which that was not part of our original scope, but due to the coronavirus and my inability to be on site, it freed up some time and some ability for me to focus more on that. So we were able to get that draft plan into Kishan's hands, and that now we can, if you choose to move forward with it, you've got a document that tells you what it is, how to do it, and why you do a process control management plan. And the real advantage here is the succession planning goes along with this younger workforce that you've got coming on. They can learn from the veteran staff's experience that gets documented through the process control management plan and their participation in that work, so that they are able to carry forward once these retirements occur. So also the PCMP, the process control management plan, gives you a format to get your standard operating procedures in place. One of its appendix items is a SOP for writing SOPs. And that's kind of the first step, is how do you do this? How do you put an SOP together? A lot of times people say we need SOPs, but nobody knows really how to do it. So we now have that in place. And, operational procedures are being updated. As you know, we've had some challenges here in the recent past. And through that, we've had the opportunity to address some of those procedures and update them. They still need to be fully documented, but they are progressing, and there's a process in place to make that happen now that was not there in the past. And the treatment plant needs updates. I did work for months on a capital improvement program that is something I honestly recommend that everybody reads the entire thing and doesn't just stop at the cost of it, because there are a lot of information in there about what needs to be done. And, it was a draft program. That's something that the board can consider and how to implement and what to implement. It's not obviously not something that is necessarily 100% or nothing, but something you can work on. Digester number 1 has been repaired, recoded. I did not talk with Tim. I don't know how close they are to actually putting that online, but I assume they're getting really, really close to be able to do that. The current challenges have been addressed in a lot of ways. Right now, we're producing excellent effluent. We're no longer using chlorine as a filament control, which is a cost savings measure and also produces a better effluent. We identified some physical plant shortcomings, and staff is working within those. And at the same time, we're working to identify those high BOD sources that are entering the plant because they still are occurring. We talked about Drapian CMP and HawkWIMS. This is probably something you guys as a board have not heard about at this point. HawkWIMS is a data management program, relatively inexpensive to purchase. It does require some setup time, but it feeds data automatically and creates reports, creates a database that the plant can go to be able to see what's going on, get historical trends, that type of thing that you don't have right now unless Tim sits down and manually creates those things, which is extremely time inefficient. And the other thing is it creates all the reports that Tim has to do on a monthly, quarterly, annual basis. All that data is, you just set up the reports and they come out to you. So that's a system that hopefully we'll be able to get on board pretty soon. We also presented an odor and corrosion report recommending that we eliminate the use of chlorine. The existing tanks of the 2 pump stations are both in a state where they need to be replaced as soon as possible. There are mechanical issues with those tanks that need help. We recommend the use of the non-hazardous calcium nitrate, which is a very well-established and proven technology around the country and the world for that matter. And it will reduce your corrosion and odors through the entire liquid system of the treatment stream, which when I say liquid, that means all the way through the process, through the effluent. It will not address any odors that would be created from digesters, that type of stuff, because you can't feed it to digesters. But you guys don't really have a digester odor problem anyway, so that shouldn't be a problem. I think the last thing we want to talk about, the collection systems services. I worked very closely with the member agency managers to get consensus on what kind of service level they wanted last year. Put together a budget that actually ended up in a reduced cost for us. Most of that reduced cost, honestly, was due to the elimination of an overhead charge that was being carried in there. Whether that's something we want to carry forward or not, it will be an item of discussion as you do next year's budget. But also, you know, you've got basically a whole new crew out there right now. You've got a Tony, who's the leader of the group, and a couple other guys that are just all working very hard. They're dedicated and determined, really customer focused. They want to do a good job. They want to work with the public. They want to work with your agencies to make sure they're getting what you want. And from what I've seen, they're being as effective and efficient as any private sector group that I've been in contact with over my years. So as I stated, we got the draft staffing and succession plan, the draft capital improvement program, the odor control alternatives. We also spent quite a bit of time on the wet weather flow management options, which you're now moving forward with the storage tanks. The budget format was improved, working together with the consultants from, my mind just went blank on that group, but the other consultants that were helping you with the budget last year. Your communications are doing great. The process control management plan and your audits are basically current, and you got financial stability. So with that, just a couple of recommendations for next year. If we can go to the next slide. And just move forward with getting SOPs developed and the process control management plan in place, get the HawkWIMS system up, which feeds and supports that PCMP. You've got the staffing and succession plan, evaluate and implement it. Does it make sense to you? Install the tanks and calcium nitrate for corrosion and odor control. evaluate and implement the capital improvement program as we talked about. It's how, whatever you think you can do. One thing I recommended due to the recent upset of the treatment plant is to hire a professional wastewater engineering firm to come in and really evaluate and give you a written document of what the treatment plant's current capacities are based on what is there. Maintain your focus on your accounting procedures and on your communications between agencies, and everybody just keep working together to meet the goals that you've done. I heard Catherine tonight say that that's a goal that she sees going forward, and I think all of you from one of my discussions when I've been able to talk with you are focused on that type of effort, and I'm glad to see that. It's really good. So with that, thank you very much for allowing me to work with you. And are there any questions, comments, things I can answer?
Thank you very much. Let's go out of screen sharing, and come back. I know that there's a lot of material in there. Many of the items on the list we haven't seen as a board, so I don't really want to go down a path of trying to discuss things that we don't have the background information for. I want to thank Dan for all the hard work that you've put in for SAM over the last year. And Kishan, do you have any comments now at this point on this agenda item?
Not really. Like I told earlier, that I'll bring it back to the board, the relevant projects which need to be implemented. These are in several stages. Some need to be discussed with the member agency managers, and after I discuss it, and then we'll bring it to the board for final approval.
Do we have any questions from the board? Matthew.
I have several questions, most of which are engendered by the third paragraph of the staff report, which starts by saying that the extremely high BOD concentration has been a key example of the benefits WMS brings to SAM. The implication there, well, I'll make this as a question to the general manager and the relevant staff. Does this mean you think that if WMS had not been on board, the BOD problem would not have been as expeditiously solved, or maybe not solved at all?
I would answer the question saying yes. It was convenient for SAM to reach out to wastewater management specialists because they were already on board and they had a consultant with them rather than searching out for somebody new. They were already familiar with our process and were getting involved with our day-to-day process. So we reached out to them and they helped us out and we were able to address the BOD issue.
So SAM staff would not have been able to handle this?
SAM staff on its own would not have been able to handle it because we do have experience, we do have all the expertise in-house, but unfortunately we do not have that much of time to do research and get into details. Ideally speaking, we would need to have a clone for Tim who could do the job.
It was an unusual situation.
It is an unusual situation which has never happened in the past so many years, and therefore we had to research, we had to experiment a couple of things, and that could be only done by a consultant who's probably implemented it elsewhere or shared their knowledge.
If I could interject just for a second,
our own, sorry.
Or is the BODs that we got, like the 1900s, the 1700 BODs, I reached out to some of the other agencies in our area, South San Francisco, Millbrae, Burlingame, those areas that have higher, like a lot more industrial impacts than we do. And when I told them the BOD concentrations we were getting on the influent, they were absolutely floored. They have never seen BODs, and we're talking, like I said, South San Francisco, Millbrae, you know, places where they have a lot of industrial users. And for me to go, we're getting 1900, and they're going, holy Christ, we've gotten like 900s or 1,000, but 1900 milligrams per liter? Are you freaking serious? And I mean, by comparison, our treatment facility is way smaller than theirs. Actually, we're about the same size as Millbrae, but South San Francisco, quite a bit smaller. So the impact that it has on our little tiny facility is insurmountable. It really is. And everyone there, everyone at SAM, I mean, I've been there 34 years almost. So is George Long, right? We were hired at the same time. And this was like the entire time in our tenure that we've been there, we've never seen BODs that high. I mean, that's how out of the ordinary it is. And yet we're still seeing, wherever the hell it's coming from, we're still seeing weird spikes. So.
But the problem has been solved at this point, and we are meeting the standards.
Yeah. We're meeting the standards, and
I want the public to know that this was a problem not within SAM. It was not a SAM problem. It was something that came into SAM, and with Dan's help, this was addressed and not completely understood. But there are no longer problems with the effluent.
Yes, all of December, we've had no issues, and touch wood, till date, we've had no issues.
All right, let's go back to Matthew if you have an additional question.
It's been mentioned that WMS had another consultant in. Was that Wet Technologies?
Yes.
Whatever their cost was it within what WMS was charging, or do we pay them separately?
They are paid separately. They were originally a sub-consultant in my proposal last year, and Sam chose to take them out of my proposal and deal with them directly. So they came in addition.
Thank you. And finally, is the search ongoing for the O&M manual and the original design criteria that the plant was permitted on?
Correction, there is an O&M manual existing in the plant. It gets updated every 2 years, I guess. The last we updated was 2 years back. And that doesn't require to be redone again. It's only when we add new equipments, we modify the operations manual. And as far as the design is concerned, we are looking out, we are planning on going out for an RFP to probably hire a engineering firm, a wastewater treatment engineering firm who can possibly assess the needs of the plant and then come up with some recommendations.
Well, it occurs to me that to get permits, you have to go to the state board and then the regional board, as I understand it, and you have to have your design criteria, the i.e. what the plant is designed to do and how it does it. That information has to go to the state and the regional boards, correct? And every time a permit needs to be renewed, they have to see that stuff again.
Yes, we have laid down the design criteria in the permit itself, which says what is the maximum capacity and what is the plant capable of.
Has Sam asked those entities for a copy of our own design criteria?
I don't understand the question because we already have it.
Well, it was highly emphasized in Dan's previous presentations that critical information about how the plant was supposed to function is entirely missing. So if maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but I think I'm talking about that critical information that could not be found. And it should be at the state.
A correction, what is available is for the plant to operate under normal circumstances. This is a very abnormal circumstances where it has gone almost threefold or fourfold times what the influent quality should be coming in. And therefore plants are not generally designed for such thing, but they should be ready for such thing. So that's not mentioned in the design manual.
Well, correct.
Are you working to find the information and to modify the manual?
Yes, we are working towards, as I mentioned, we're working towards sending out an RFP and hiring an engineering specialist who can possibly work on that.
And they would retroactively reconstruct what that was originally when the plant was first permitted.
Yeah, I mean, it might be maybe adding a couple of equipments or fine tuning some equipments or whatever. Yep.
Anything else, Matthew? Any other questions?
Actually, I have a whole slew of questions, but you said you don't want to go down that trail tonight, and that sounds reasonable, so I'll shut up.
Thank you, though. Deborah, Director Rush.
Can't Matthew just ask his questions offline?
I was just going to volunteer, Matthew. If you'd like to call me or have me call you and want to walk through any of that stuff, I'd be glad to.
I'd like to hear those discussions. I think they're important for all of us to
Or
hear.
an operations committee meeting, if you'd like.
Or we have an agenda item on our next agenda to talk about going forward. So some of these items. So perhaps we can make sure that the questions, we can modify the agenda to make sure that these questions get, discussed and at the next meeting. Matthew, would that be?
Yes.
Does that work for everyone? Because we are going to have an agenda item about Dan's continued contract on our next agenda. So that
Next
would be
meeting.
appropriate.
Yeah, next board meeting. Yep.
Everybody okay with that? Matthew, why don't you get your questions to Kishan? So this actually reminded me of something that I meant to say at the beginning. I don't know if we have members of the public who have hung in here until this point, but I just wanted to let the public know that the wet weather storage project is underway on the Burnham Strip in El Granada, and they have fenced off the work area and they have their signs up, and the work should start in the next few weeks. So this is the project to create additional storage capacity underground. It won't affect the future park on the site or anything else, but it will increase the flexibility of the whole SAM system.
Director Dye, you took away parts of my manager's report.
I'm sorry, but I just wanted to get it early in the meeting, but you could cover it again because it's so important.
No problem. Just joking. No problem. I'll elaborate a little further.
Okay.
She does that.
Thank you, Dan, for your report. We appreciate it, and we look forward to talking to you at the next meeting. Anyone who has questions, get them in so we can cover them at the next meeting. Anything further on that item? Any more questions? Anything else? Moving on to item E, update on Granada Force Main project.
Yeah, so a quick update on the Granada Force Main project. The Granada Force Main project completed in time, and we've been having this force main functional since last July, August, I believe, and everything went off very well except for a couple of hiccups, and we have learned a lot of lessons from those hiccups, and we have taken corrective action so that it doesn't repeat in our future projects. A gist of it is that the contractor started off work in January, I believe, late January, and by beginning of February, he did his staging areas in outside the project areas, and therefore landed up into trouble destroying some of the willows and worked in environmentally sensitive habitat areas, which caused City of Half Moon Bay to pitch in, and then further the problem got aggravated due to frack outs. Which a frack out is a normal phenomena which occurs in directional drilling, but that coupled with working in outside the project boundaries led to a stop work order by the City of Half Moon Bay, and then the contractor and SAM worked with the City of Half Moon Bay and got the stop work order lifted, and the project came back to working, and the contractor had to remobilize and complete the project. But we had an understanding with City of Half Moon Bay that after the project is completed, we will come back for an after the fact permit. And that is primarily in the areas where north of the project, where the contractor had done the staging operations, which is not allowed, but he had done it. And therefore, for the after the fact permit, SAM hired a biologist who has completed the biological resources evaluation. And that is just taking like a global view of the complete area where it has been disturbed. And The biologist is currently working on a revegetation plan, which I'll bring back to the board once it's ready, which indicates which areas need to be mitigated. But as all of us know, time has passed, and the willows would generally grow on its own. And with the rain and with the time pass, there might be very little areas that might need mitigation, but we will wait for the biologist to come back with the report. And that's where we are right now. The biologist is working on the revegetation plan, and that will be brought back to the board. The lessons that we have learned, which we have incorporated in the wet weather storage expansion project, is a couple of them is that we have clearly designated the staging areas for the wet weather storage expansion project. We have indicated that in the plans. We have explained it to the contractor. Not that we had not explained it to the contractor earlier in the Granada Force Main project. We had indicated in the pre-construction meeting of the project boundaries, but it all happened quickly. It happened within 1 hour that he actually staged it and started cutting the willows. But this has been taken care of in the future projects. And we have also ensured, we have informed him in writing as well as during our pre-construction meeting, which was held last week, that he should mobilize only in the presence of SAM staff. So we have a project management team and SAM staff member who would be present during mobilization. So these are a few things which we learned from our past project of Granada Force Main. Normally in the past, since the project was not so much in magnitude, it was smaller in magnitude compared to what we've done projects in the past. We've never had a full-time project manager. The practice earlier was for SAM staff to go in and out and then monitor it and then keep track on it and inspect certain critical requirements. But I know we learned it the hard way for the Force Main job. It was a small job. It was less than $500,000. It was about 1,500 feet. And we did far more than 1,500 feet in the same Granada Force Main a couple of years back without any issues. We did have frac outs, which is a normal phenomena, but it was all contained within the boundary. We did almost 5,200 feet, and that was a larger magnitude. But unfortunately, it happens. All contractors are not the same. But like I told you, we have learned it the hard way, but we have implemented that in our future projects, and we are welcome to any suggestions, any advice, and we'll make sure that's implemented. So any questions, staff is here ready to answer, please.
Well, I think it's important the frac outs were consisted of clean mud with nothing except clean mud, and where it popped up to the surface, it was completely removed. So all of the agencies have signed off and said this was not a problem.
Correct. Sorry, I forgot to mention that that was a refer to Regional Water Quality Control Board and the Fish and Wildlife Game and U.S. Army Corps. And all three of them got back to us saying it was clean, there was no problem. You guys have taken appropriate, are up to the appropriate frac out procedures and have implemented. There's nothing more need to be done. Sorry for interrupting.
No problem. My one frustration is that there was no actual measurement of the impacts to the willows that I can find. I've read the whole biological resources evaluation, and it is written as if the project hadn't happened yet. So, and it is clear that if they had planned to do the staging to the north, they would have had to do this level of review and additional permitting because it crosses a jurisdictional stream and impacts willow areas that are a sensitive habitat. The actual impacts, though, were very small. So we will wait and see what comes of the revegetation plan. Willows do tend to just come on their own. So we'll see if any additional remediation is required. It was definitely a mistake, but I do think you've learned a lesson from it. And hopefully we won't have this kind of thing happen again. And it was relatively quite minor, in fact, in the overall environmental impacts. Does anyone have any questions for Kishan on this? And what was the total cost to us of this mistake?
This mistake, I believe I've put that in my staff report. Let me just pull it up, please.
It looks like $170,000 for the additional permitting, construction management, which we may have maybe
Yep.
we should have had anyway. And
Correct. Yep, so 60 plus 60, 130,000. So, yep, project management, 67,000, and the biologist is about 66,000. And
maybe we
just-
should have had some of that anyway, but it was clearly well over $100,000 of additional costs because the contractor laid out the pipe in the wrong direction.
Yeah, we did have a biologist prior to the start of the project who did a biological resource evaluation survey in the project area. So that is prior to the construction. And,
Planned project area.
Correct, planned project area, exactly. So just to let you all know, we do have a biologist on board appointed by the contractor for the wet weather storage expansion. That's already built into his specifications, and there will be a biologist for this job at the contractor's expense.
Great. Any further questions? Thank you for that good report, Kishan.
Thank you.
Moving on, item F, discussion of formation of a special committee to investigate future options for SAM.
Yep, this item was required to be put as suggested by Director Lohman. So I believe it's an offshoot of what was discussed in the December 14th meeting to form a special committee for the improvements at SAM to take care of the additional capacity as to how we can do a brainstorming from a committee which could be formed by board members, member agency managers, and the respective engineers. So I let Director Lohman talk about it more.
Okay, well, Kishan stole my thunder since, Barbara stole his thunder. A couple of meetings ago, we discussed this. The general thought I proposed at the time was all of the repairs that we're looking at in the future for SAM are extremely expensive. SAM has on the danger list for sea level rise. It's 45 years old technology. So I suggested that we form this committee, as Kishan mentioned, with general managers, board members, staff engineers, whoever likes to be on it, and start brainstorming what can we do. We have tons of smart people here, and we can certainly cover all the alternatives, get quotes, and move forward with either an enhancement plan or a completely new plan. That'll be decided by the committee. We got a pretty good response at the meeting, so I put this back on the agenda to move this forward. I was hoping we could even set a date or something for the first committee meeting and just get people together, figure out how to structure and run the committee and start the process, because the longer we wait, the more problems we're going to have. So my putting this on the agenda was just, can we launch the committee? Have every agency bring whoever they want, general managers, board members, extra engineers, and set a date to, I don't know whether evening meetings or day meetings are better for people. If it's all working people mostly, do you want to do it during the day? I just like to get it going. So open to suggestions.
Are there any questions for Director Lohman before we go? I see Greg.
My question is, can I participate in this as a member of the MCC or other members of the public, or is it only SAM-related individuals?
I don't see why public members can't be present. And it's mostly, for the more ideas, the better.
Well, I commend you for this initiative. And I think
that's up to the committee. Why don't we get the committee going and then see how they want to work with input, getting extra engineers, studies, all that is open as far as I'm concerned. I just want to get a good plan for SAM. If we get a better plan, we can do cost avoidance, we can do reconstructions, build entirely new designs. Everything is open as far as I'm concerned. And as soon as we start, the better as far as I'm concerned. So,
Jeremy, do you want to speak about the structure of such a committee?
Sure. Thank you, Chair Dye. Yeah, the structure is you probably want to do it as an ad hoc committee. Ad hoc committees are not required to be open to the public, but they can be. It's really up to the committee as to how you want to structure yourself. An ad hoc committee is typically formed. It would be appointed by the chair, at least for purposes of Sam's participation on it from the board of directors. So it would typically be for a limited duration, and it would be, you typically wouldn't have regularly occurring meetings. If you did, then that starts to look more like a standing committee. My recommendation would be, just for purposes of greater flexibility, seeing as you're bringing in outside groups, outside agencies, an ad hoc committee probably gives the agency, gives Sam more flexibility in trying to create this forum to
Well, would it
plan the
be
future
appropriate then to have a motion to establish this committee?
It would be.
Rick, would you like to make a motion to establish?
Definitely would like to do that. I so
Before
move.
we do that,
I'll second that for
And
discussion.
then let's have discussion.
okay, I just wanted to say, if we're going to be doing something about looking at the future of SAM, we ought to be looking at water as well as sewer. Recycled water is a very important part of our future agenda, and I think unless Coastside County Water District is involved in this, it's short-sighted, that's all.
I think that's a deal breaker. I think we need to establish the foundation of what's going on with SAM first. I think the discussion with recycled water is a natural outgrowth of that. But I believe the voting members of this committee need to simply, if we have voting, and I think we're working more on consensus or majority anyway, not anything more than that. This is a project we're looking at. When I brought this up to Keishan, we're looking 40 years out. But that's what we need to be looking at. So of course, recycled water is part of it. And I believe each agency has a different interest in recycled water. Granada has a different kind of drainage basin than Montera does. And so there's a whole lot of discussion and a whole lot of points of view that need to be brought in. And Greg, I think there are so many really, it's amazing the number of educated and not only educated, but professionals on the coast who are in the public health and wastewater and recycled water business. And the more we can talk to people, the more they can come in and we can hear from them, the more information we have and the better recommendations we can make. We're not going to, I don't see this committee as making anything cast in stone because the technology is going to be changing. But as Rick said, we're dealing with 19th century technology and there's been a whole lot happened since then. So let's look at it and see how we can make it the best for our environment and our communities.
Exactly, and that was, you've reinforced my point. The broader you make the question, the more people you get involved who have information and interest and technology and a stake in the matter, the better you are able to come up with a solution that makes sense for a system which should be taking care of the entire coast side and should be taking care of the coast side's water and sewer problems. So I don't see excluding someone at this point as being of any interest or any help at all.
That sounds like a pitch for consolidation to me.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Let me just say, let me jump in here.
I get to respond to that, please. I am not making a pitch for anything other than inclusion. And I am not talking about consolidation. I didn't use that word. I don't know what you're talking about. It sounds off the wall to me. So I'm only
Just checking.
I would just like to comment that it seems as if our ability is to appoint people from our board to serve on this committee. The question of whether others will be involved could follow from that. And so, I mean, I know Greg's had his hand up for a while and others may want to speak, but I think the next step is for us to see who on our board wants to serve on this committee without necessarily excluding others. That's something that can be discussed further, and what the makeup of this potentially a bigger committee is. Did you want to say more, Deborah? Director Penrose, do you want to say more? I'm sorry, I kind of jumped in there.
I was trying to make a point. And the point was we are talking about 40 years out, as Director Slater Carter put it. And 40 years out is going to have to include recycled water. If it doesn't, we are coming up with a plan that is going to fall way short. So I am making the point that water and sewer work together. And many of the newer technologies use that as a basis for how they design their systems. So I would like to see information from people who know about recycled water included. I don't know at what point in the workings of the committee this has to happen. I don't care who starts the committee. I certainly think we need general managers involved, as well as board members. But that's the point I'm making, and I don't understand where this idea of consolidation comes from.
Okay, well, let's not go down that route. Jeremy, do we have the ability to set up a committee that includes people who are not part of our board or agency?
I mean, that's sometimes they're called advisory committees, sometimes they're called ad hoc committees, but I think your initial suggestion of appointing Sam's group and then the committee could meet and see who they want to include in future meetings, right? So you could have an ad hoc committee where certain people are allowed to be there and to participate in the ad hoc committee meeting. So I would say probably your suggestion to constitute the committee is a good first step. And then you can talk, and during the first meeting, you can kind of go over in greater detail who's going to be on it, who's not.
Okay. Greg, I see your hand, but Director Ruddock has her hand up, and then I will call on you, Greg, I promise. Director Ruddock.
I just want to say that I think, Deborah, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think what you're saying is where things are headed in the state of California is the concept of one water. So rather than having silos of sewer over here and water over here, we're talking about one water. The water supply that we have is going to serve multiple functions and needs to be managed, holistically as a whole. So why just talk about how we might do sewer in the future? Why not talk about how we're going to do one water in the future? Is that kind of where you're headed with that, Deborah? The fact that they're...
Yes, you're putting it better than I am, but that's exactly what I mean.
Yeah. I mean, the legislation coming forward is going to be dealing with integrating, wastewater and potable water and drinking water. We're going to use scarcity is going to become only a more serious and serious problem. So you have to look at them together. So I think that's right, actually.
I'm going to call on Greg, and then I'm going to see if we can actually create a committee of members of this board to start figuring out what this potentially larger committee would look like. Greg.
I just wanted to point out, for those of you who are not familiar with the Bay Delta Plan, the lawsuit that's resulted, the forecast by BOSQA is in the first 3 years of a drought, a cutback of 56% of the water supply to Hetch Hetchy water recipients. in years 4 through 8 of the drought, the cutback is 68%. And that solution, the solution to that, besides some lawsuit accommodation, is a series of capital improvement projects totaling billions of dollars with truly unknown costs, both to operate and construct, that will take almost 40 years to implement. So I take both Deborah's point on this. And I don't know, it's not my position to tell Sam what to do, but I think it is going to have to be reimagined in some form, because we cannot continue our civilization if we run into another 7 to 10 year drought. And I will also point out that the longest droughts in California history are 120 and 200 years. That was the medieval ages before climate change caused by humans. So I do think a holistic approach is merited, but it's your committee.
And we perhaps at this point don't have the power to decide who else is going to be on the committee. So I would like to ask who on this board would like to serve on this committee, is interested in serving on this committee.
I think you need one from each agency.
I think that would be ideal, but at this point I was trying to see who was interested in serving. I think we could.
I would like to be able to see it so that as many people who want to serve on this committee can. It might mean having agendas and or having extra SAM board meetings if everybody is interested. But I believe the more involvement we have from each agency, the better it is for SAM.
Just one limitation: if you have more than a quorum of the board, you're not really having a committee at that point. You've essentially got a board workshop, which isn't necessarily bad. It's just different.
And that may be the way we want to start this out, is as a workshop. My thought when I first proposed this was exactly that. It's important for every agency and the public to be involved and pull in as many ideas as possible. I remember during the rebuild of the expansion of the SAM plant, we had a fellow from Montera come and speak to the Montera board, and he said, "Why didn't you use this particular technology?" And it's very good, and it's a 20th century technology, but things had been set and people hadn't been looking forward to see what was on the horizon when the SAM plant was designed and then when it was rebuilt. So I just want to see as many ideas brought in for the convenience of future board members, because we're going to be whatever we decide now will not be the final decision. There will be many other board members and much other technology, but we need to set the direction and the philosophy for it.
So my question still stands. Who on this board is interested in serving on this committee? Do we have one person from each agency? Rick?
No, I was volunteering.
I know. I said we have one. We have Rick who's interested.
And so am I.
Okay. Do we have someone from Half Moon Bay?
Deborah, I think you'd be better at it than I am, but I'm willing to serve if you aren't.
I think we're all going to end up on this because I think it's actually more important than subcommittee, but I'm happy to serve.
Well, we could also have this smaller committee, the ad hoc committee, that could end up recommending that it become a board workshop. I think at this, it's 8:30. I'd like to see us do something tonight that moves this process forward and, doesn't lock us into anything in specific. I think if we were to start now with the group an ad hoc group that could meet and really sort of talk through some of these great suggestions and ideas and bring it back to the board, I mean, right there, I think would be a reasonable first step.
Yeah, well, I think the first thing the committee needs to do is identify the problems to be discussed. You know, we don't want to be like just going all over the place. We want to spend some time defining the problems to be discussed so that we're not, you know, wasting our time.
Yeah.
You know, what problems are facing the COSAD in terms of sustainability, right? Some are more urgent, some are less urgent, but what do we want to?
I would also suggest that we look at the strategic plan we adopted and come up with some basic concepts of what we see as the philosophies and the priorities for SAM in looking at these problems, so we have a decision-making basis.
Well, right now we have 2 members of Montera and 1 member from Half Moon Bay. If we add someone from El Granada or from Granada, we become a board.
Here's an option, Chair Dye. I mean, maybe you could do it like an alternate. Both couldn't attend, but you could have one serve as an alternate. That could be an option as well.
And if they're done by Zoom, then somebody can always listen to the recording.
Matthew.
First, I would suggest that such a committee needs to have very broad outreach. There are many different elements involved in sustainability and many resources to be tapped. And we're not the only ones. The other side of the hill, county, most of the cities, some of whom have wastewater treatment plants that are much closer to the current sea level than SAM is, are working together on these problems. And I believe BCDC and some other regional entities are also involved, as well as the state. But I don't know what kind of format they've come up with to handle these kind of questions about, is it a committee, is it a study group or whatever. So I think we should do some research on and find out how that process was formatted, and perhaps it would be a good model for us.
Sounds like you're volunteering.
Thank you.
Well, I'll research it, but yeah, I don't know how, you know, when you get city council members from different cities, or maybe their staff, I don't know if they're staff people who are talking to each other, or, you know, elected people, or they're hiring outside experts, or how they're doing it. But, you know, if you just drive down 101 in Redwood City and up through South City, and you see how close the bay is now, and the water is going to rise another 30 feet, they're studying it. And so we need to come up with a format where we can have a broad group involved. Everyone has a stake in this.
I'm trying to figure out a positive step that we could take at this meeting that would move this process forward.
Well, I will be Rick's alternate then, and so Rick and I could work on this in the background from MWSD's and Sam's point of view.
Okay, so Rick, do you want to restate your motion?
That would only take care of our members here. We would still need staff members, and probably the GMs will want to get involved too.
Well,
Yes, but that at this meeting, I think you only have to make a motion.
okay.
To include the
I
board.
would like to move that we form an exploratory ad hoc committee composed of myself, Debbie Ruddock, and Matthew Clark, to begin the process and investigate scope and other members who should be involved.
And bring a recommendation back to the board.
Yes.
Director,
I'm in favor of the motion. I'm happy to second that motion. I just want us to be clear, though, that staff has a full plate right now. You know, I don't see us putting a lot of work on staff's plate relating
Right.
to this committee. I think this committee needs to sort of run on its own, do some research, do some homework, formulate some priorities, recommendations. But staff's got a lot going on. We don't want this to be a giant suck right now on staff time.
Okay.
Good
That's fine.
point. Kishan, you wanted to speak to the motion?
Yeah. Can I suggest, before we go ahead with the motion, can I suggest that we have our first kickoff meeting of this committee possibly on a Saturday, like a fourth Saturday of every month, maybe Saturday morning, 11 o'clock or so that everybody is available? If that's acceptable to the committee members, then I can send out a invite.
I'm okay with
I can
that.
normally do that.
Works for me.
Saturday, I'm clear.
Saturday, 23rd.
One of the hallmarks of a ad hoc committee is it doesn't have regularly scheduled meetings, but we can talk about that. I mean, we may want to turn it into a standing committee. I mean, that may be something, if we think this is going to be around for a while, that could be an option. So maybe I would say, I'd recommend maybe go forward with the motion, but then as far as the actual timing and whatnot, maybe I can talk with, brainstorm a little bit with Chair Dye if no one had any objections, and maybe we can figure out the way to do this with legally makes the most sense, at least in the short term.
It may end up being board workshops
Yeah.
on this subject. That this is something that I don't know. It's important enough that it does seem as if we need to put some energy to it. But I completely agree with Director Ruddock's point that our staff is maxed out right now.
Sure.
And we can't expect more from them. So, but I think this is a step forward. If we have these three excellent people who can brainstorm and come together and come back with a recommendation to the board, perhaps for something different, or, let's get it moving. Does that work for everybody? All right,
Sure.
I guess a roll
Yeah.
call. What?
Just to clarify, do we have a second from Director Ruddock? It sounded like she wanted a second. Okay, good.
I'll second.
But
She did.
Sure.
Good. Okay.
All right, can we have a roll call, please? Establishing this ad hoc committee.
Director Penrose,
Aye.
Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Lohman,
Yes.
Director Ruddock,
Yes.
Director Slater Carter,
Definitely.
Chair Dye.
Right. The beginning of a great journey. And I think to Greg and the others who are interested in this topic, I think there's going to be opportunities. This has to be a larger group involved in this than just our board. Right? Okay, moving on. Directors' reports. Any directors' reports?
Oh.
we're going to go backwards a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. I went to the next page too fast. I'm sorry. Moving on. General Manager's report.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry. I just changed pages.
No problem. I have two items to report. One is the wet weather storage expansion project. I just wanted to give a quick update. The easement agreement with GCST has been signed by the chair of GCST as well as chair of SAM. It's been notarized, and we're waiting for the quit claim deed, which will be prepared. And then once that is ready, the entire thing would be recorded at the county. So that's part of the documentation. But as far as construction work is concerned, we had a pre-construction meeting last week with the contractor. The contractor has put up signs both at the beginning and at the end of the project. He has also installed a fence at the boundaries, showing the boundaries of the project. And he's expected to mobilize in the week beginning 18th. That is the next week. And he hopes to start getting the long lead items, which is the concrete boxes, in the first week of February, but he's trying to expedite it. And we are hopeful of completing the project by end March. That's the way things stand right now, but I would definitely give an update as things progress. And the second update I wanted to just give you guys is on the timeline for the budget. We have discussed with our finance consultants, and we are expecting to discuss the draft budget with the member agency managers by this month end. And we are hopeful of bringing it to the finance committee in the month of February, and thereafter bring it to the board. So I just wanted to give a quick update on the budget.
And that will include the capital improvement program.
Oh yeah, the budget is
I
not
know,
complete.
but we just have to make it clear that that's a key part of the
Yes.
budget is knowing where what projects we're going to be funding at the plant.
Oh yeah, the infrastructure budget is always a part of the general budget. And yes, to elaborate it further, we would also be bringing a draft of the 5-year CIP after discussion with the member agency managers very soon.
Kishan, I have a favor to ask, and that is if you could put up a sign, a big sign, a banner on the fence that says your sewer authority mid-coast side dollars at work for your public health or something even shorter. But I wasn't sure what was going up when I was driving by on the highway. And I was going, oh, is it another house? What is this? And I think it's important to give Sam the credit for doing a major project like this for everybody who drives by. This project, when we did the first stage of it, which was completed in 2020, has become an example and been utilized by other agencies because it's such a energy efficient and green and effective project. So let's let people know that Sam is doing this and how good it is. And certainly a banner would be good.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you had a look at the signboards, which at the beginning and the end of the project, it clearly mentioned your sewer fees at work, sewer authority mid-coast side. You can actually see that if you drive on that road in front of the Portola pump station, but definitely you can't see it from the highway.
You cannot see it from the highway, and that's my concern, is to have to be giving us the publicity we deserve for the now tens of thousands of people who drive by on that road.
Sure, we'll come out with something which is visible from the highway.
Thank you.
Sam, I am.
Sam, we are.
Anything further, Kishan? Any questions?
That's about it. Our detailed report, as usual, will be brought up in the second meeting of the month, giving all the flow details.
Matthew, you have a question?
I have a question for Kishan. I have the draft agenda that was originally sent out in front of me, and there's nothing else for a manager's report. Where's the flow data? Am I mistaken? Is there a more up-to-date agenda or another attachment that I should be able to see? Because I don't see, like the flow reports, where are they?
Yeah, that's what I mentioned at the end, Director Clark, that typically the flow reports are brought in the second meeting of the board, because the first meeting sometimes falls on 7th or 8th, and it would be hard for us to put together everything. So it has been decided a couple of years back that we bring in all the flow data in the second meeting of the month. So you will have all that for the previous month, for the month of December, in the second meeting in January.
Okay, so the agenda that I have jumps from item 4F to item 6.
You have 5, which is a general manager's report. That's just a report. There's no attachment. There's no.
No, I mean in the body. I'm on like a page 135 of the Word document.
Oh, yep, got it. Yes, because that's only for a verbal report. Otherwise, it's just to maintain the agenda that we have all these items, and if one has to talk about it, one can talk about it.
I saw another hand. Director Penrose.
Yes, I wondered if we could get a short update on the BOD.
Yes, as we have, I don't have the numbers right now, but the process is controlled, and we have still not been able to locate the source. As indicated earlier, we had hired a person who is well versed with the pre-treatment, and due to the holidays and his vacation, he has not resumed work. He's expected to resume work very soon, and then we would conduct more research and find out where exactly the source is coming from. But as far as the values are concerned, we are, as far as the values of the plant are concerned, we are well within our limits, and the process is under control right now.
Yes, I understand that. Thank you very much. And I'm really pleased to hear it. When this firm comes in, will that include increased testing?
Not right now because testing is already being done. We've put samplers at several places, but maybe once we zero down to a certain location, we might change the modality of testing. We might have more testing where it could collect every hour. Right now, we are doing a 24/7 where you get the average of what's being collected in the day at that particular location. But we might have 24 bottles in the particular manhole, which would actually dip and take every hour. So that way we'll know during which hour of the day we are having higher BODs. But for that, we are trying to zero down a location.
Okay, and are the high effluents still coming from Half Moon Bay and the harbor?
Most likely it's coming from the harbor. Am I right, Tim? Do you want to elaborate anything more on the results, Tim?
Other than the fact that the results that I've seen, they're just kind of all over the place. So it's really hard to pinpoint anything. We'll have high results one day, and then the very next day it'll be just normal compared to all the other samplers. So that's making it difficult at best. We do have a couple areas that we're sort of concentrating on, but like I said, we'll get a high number and then we'll get, low numbers a few days in a row. So it makes it difficult at best.
This will be fascinating to find when it's finally solved. It would make a good mystery story.
Yes. Anything else for the manager's report? Item 6, attorney's report.
Yes, fortunately tonight, because it looks like we're getting the hour drawing late, there is no closed sessions this evening. I will mention that there is a closed session and a special meeting scheduled for the 18th, and Christopher will be circulating materials for that closed session in the next couple of days. I'm going to stay on him about that. So I want to make sure the board has plenty of time, and that deals with the general manager's evaluation. So just want to remind the board that's going to be coming up. With that, I have nothing else to report and hope everyone's doing well.
So even though there are 4 items on our agenda for the closed session, we are not doing any of them?
They're not needed tonight.
Okay, great. Hey, moving on, director's reports. Seeing
Nothing to
none.
report.
Topics for item 8, topics for future board consideration. Anything?
We'll let Director Clark and Director Ruddock get their hands up here.
Oh, thank you. Director Clark.
I would like to see on the agenda a consideration of the long-term and still ongoing odor problem at the Portola pump station. Here in El Granado, we have been getting complaints about the smell, and I myself, the last 3 times I walked past on the sidewalk, the smell was quite palpable. So I think we should consider doing something about it.
Okay, we have a report from Dan on odor control that we haven't seen yet, right? When is that
Right.
coming to us?
Staff is evaluating that, and then we'll come back. We'll present it to the board and an odor control program, which would be possibly acceptable. Right now, it's just evaluating various options.
Okay. Another question? Director Ruddock.
Yeah,
Director
I'd like us to put on the agenda an item to discuss treatment plant, or actually SAM facilities security. I think given what's been going on and sort of the lack of predictability and various security issues, I'd like to talk about how we protect our facilities from intrusion, and maybe even our software hardware systems. But we don't need to go down for any extended period of time without drastic consequences. And there are some unhappy people out there, and I think you get what I'm saying.
Yep.
Right? I'd like us to, and I'd like this to be on the agenda soon. I'd like to understand potential security issues and the full universe of them, and then review our current status, and then what we might do. And there might be some investments that we make as part of the capital program, and maybe part of the upcoming one, given these things are relatively urgent and unanticipated. But I'd like us to talk about it.
Like a quick comment on that.
Yeah.
My thoughts are, could we make that a closed session item?
Yeah, I'm going to look. You're thinking the same way I am, Director Lohman. You don't want to flag a bunch of vulnerabilities for people then to know. So let me think about how we potentially can. No, I mean, it's a great issue, but let's think about how we potentially can do that in a way that
we're good on that with.
Yeah, so let me look at that and come up with some options for the board.
Thank you.
Excellent suggestion, both of you. Anything else? I think we have a lot on our agenda coming up, future agendas. Should be interesting spring. Any further items for discussion? Here we are, 8:52. I was worried about closed session, so it's nice that we're able to finish up in time.
Just real quick.
Yes.
I don't know if anybody noticed, but on the chat, Michelle, I took a copy of it. Links to brand new innovative ways of doing sewers, smart sewers, and a bunch of other things. She's got 3 different links, some of them to Mayor Pete Buttigieg and stuff like that who are leading it. So I've made a copy of those, which I'll look at and take to the meeting to see what those folks are thinking of also. It looked like good information if anybody wants to copy that real quick before we shut down.
Great. Seems like
That's on the Coastside Buzz website?
No, it's on chat here right now tonight.
Oh.
If you hit the chat button down there and then expand out, she just listed a whole bunch of URLs there.
I'm wondering if Michelle could actually send those URLs to us.
I can. Sure, not a problem.
That'd be
Thank
great.
you.
And maybe we could start a resource center. Somehow it'd be easy enough to just post documents to a resource center on our website, just information, something we could look at. That wouldn't be a lot of work for staff, I don't think. So information is key. All right, anything else? Okay, great meeting, everyone. Thank you. And
Thank you. Good night.
Have an
Thank you,
adjournment.
Chair. Thank you, new chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you all. I'm looking forward to a good year.
Thank you, staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Kishi.
Thank you. Good night.